Let's unravel Geeta's world. Hello and welcome. This is the 106th episode of Geeta's World. And after a short hiatus, Geeta, we are back. How are you? How have you been?
Oh, it's been a busy few weeks for us on the beat. We had a Pakistan trip. The Prime Minister is in Russia as we
Yeah.
speak, although I'm not there. My colleague Gaurav Samant is there covering it. And we have the US elections happening, so a lot. And on the diplomatic front, uh, the
Mm,
tussle with Canada and now even with the United States of America and how they're interconnected, will explain,
right,
continues.
right. I think Canada has caught the storm like anything. I think I remember last year when in September 2023, it was the first time in Parliament when Justin Trudeau had, leveled all these allegations against India. We had done an episode and this fact of, where's the evidence? The question that I had posed at you and you said only time will tell where we if Canada will have the evidence or not. And well, I don't think the time has come yet. But anyway, I think let me just also give a brief as to the uninitiated ones who are not very versed with all the facts. So the here in India, I think Canada has become this rhetoric is doing the rounds that Canada has become the new Pakistan. Well, it is not because
That
yeah, it is not
became a
because
rhetoric after our external affairs minister decided to travel to Pakistan. They said even this is happening, and nothing is happening on the Canada front. So yes, it does seem like
right.
it. Although going to Pakistan after 12 years was quite an experience, Anna. I was
Yeah.
visiting Pakistan after a long hiatus, and it felt strange, yet trying to understand what's
Mm,
happening in Pakistan. The political landscape has changed. The monitoring of us and being followed and minders remains the same. Pakistan, we have to see yet another terror attack. So this entire
mm,
vicious cycle continues. You just don't know whether it's going to ever end and whether if there can be any sort of a conversation between India and Pakistan with the civilian government. You see, it's not the
right.
establishment that India talks and it's the establishment that's in control in Pakistan. So this whole policy of
That's right.
terror is rather disappointing.
Yeah, right, Geeta. So the thing is that right now this parallels, I mean, these parallels are being drawn with Pakistan only for the fact that, Canada is not Pakistan because the kind of trade, I think $8.5 billion trade we have with Canada. And there's so many students, Indian students who are working, who are studying, who are working, and we have done an episode also on that. But here, I mean, the relations between both the countries have actually hit a nadir because what we saw last week, there were like, expulsions of diplomats from both the countries. And like I said, in September 2023, it was when it all began with Justin Trudeau, making these claims and India dismissing those. And amid all these expulsions, there was this another angle which entered the fray, which was done by, I mean, the allegations that were put by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which alleged that Indian agents were working with the Lawrence Bishnoi gang to spread terror in Canada, which was also quite coincidental because it was the same time when here I mean, Congress turned NCP leader Baba Siddiqui was shot at outside his son's office. So too many things happening, because you see the US also entering the fray of, although the Pandun case was looming large for quite a long time before the Najjar killing also, but they mentioning and they charging the US officials charging and releasing a second indictment against this person called Vikas Yadav. That was also coincidental. So we'll delve into all this, and let's also try to understand because this is getting a lot murky. The kind of language that we are seeing between India and Canada, it's like it's too solid and it's too bold, it's too blatant. So trying to understand this from you, Geeta. The last time, like I said, we spoke of uh, there was no concrete evidence that was put forward by Justin Trudeau, and now also within the, I mean, there's 1 year that has passed by, almost a year, and still what they say is that they are relying on the intel that was passed through, I mean, that was given by most probably, by the US, one of the Five Eyes countries. Um, so what do you think? Do you think, and with no evidence, yet the language has become more brutal. So how do you see this? Does it illustrate Trudeau's one-upmanship? That, oh, I have challenged India. Or there's more, that meets the eye right now.
Um, well, there are a few things that have happened in the past week or so. One is that, yes, there has been absolute downgrading of ties with recalling of the ambassador. Canada maintains that he was asked to leave, and so was the the Canadian Charge d'Affaires over here in India. The Charge d'Affaires and other diplomats have been asked to leave by India. And then there's news that came that, and simultaneously, our ambassador and our high commissioner and our diplomats were asked to leave from Canada. Canada said that they had asked the Indian high commissioner to leave. Now, it's all about timing, and India says they'd not seen the notice, they'd already decided. And all this happened because of the position that Canada had taken, and the fact that they went ahead with leveling the kind of allegations against the Indian diplomat, wherein they have now charged the Indian High Commissioner and a few other diplomats as persons of interest
Yeah.
in the case. Now, persons of interest means that they were directly involved. No, so far, they have not really provided evidence as to how they're directly involved, or for that matter, India's involvement in any way in the case itself. And that's what the Indian High Commissioner said in an interview, that we still don't have evidence. The Canadian Prime Minister, when he was being questioned about foreign interference, which is a lot to do with China, less to do with India, but he spoke about India. And he said that, yes, we've not provided evidence because we had asked the Indian side to investigate, and they're yet to investigate the matter. So, yes, they need to first show us whether they've done anything on on the information that we have, and that unless and until they do move forward, they're not going to share evidence. So that's where both sides stand. It's India's been asking for evidence. The Canadian side first wants India to investigate. And in the meanwhile, there's another story that has broken, which is really big, which is in the United States of America.
Right.
The Gurpatwan Singh Panoor case is very important because over there, again, charges have been filed. There's a charge sheet. There are two accused. One is Nikhil Gupta, the other Vikas Yadav. And in that, if you read the entire charge sheet, they have said very specifically that there were conversations that took place wherein the officer, CC1, was speaking with Nikhil Gupta, and they were talking about Gurpatwan Singh, but there were references to other elements in Canada as well. And the reference to Niger came up.
Okay.
So initially, the whole thing was about Canada saying that they themselves did not find out about Niger being a target, that they were tipped off. Then, like we discussed earlier, then a week later, India went ahead asking them, how dare you, this, that, and the rest, which is okay because they were accusing the administration of being involved.
Yeah.
Then a few days later, news came that, well, it's one of the Five Eyes. And the Five Eyes, the intelligence agencies that work on a real-time basis and cooperate with each other are of US, UK, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. So these are the Five Eyes. And so a few days later, then, one of the five, they said one of the Five Eyes has shared intelligence, and that one of the Five Eyes is actually America.
Right.
And then there was this entire news that broke about a certain person called Nikhil Gupta, who was detained in Czech Republic and will be extradited to America in a case that involves a murder for hire against Gurpatwan Singh Panoor, who is a Khalistani extremist living in America, is an American Canadian citizen. They've given details to the Indian side. They said, this is the man, these are the details, so on and so forth. So all that has been done. And then from there, they're saying that that they were tapping conversations. Nikhil Gupta fell into an absolute FBI trap because
Yeah.
the man he was talking to was FBI. The hitman that he paid $15,000 as advance to was actually an undercover agent. So there's no running away from this one.
Mm-hmm.
And in this also exists references to people they wanted to do away with in Canada.
Yeah.
I think it's just the dealing and how the two countries have dealt with it. That Canada was not as sensitive as America has been to India and Indian interests, and therefore you've seen the response from the Indian side also.
Okay.
They immediately said that they've arrested. However, now the report suggests that Vikas Yadav is on bail, that
Mm-hmm.
they arrested the individual. With the Canadian side, there is nobody that has actually been caught. And there's no one who you can actually say is responsible. Now, what's the
Right.
evidence? A lot of, so these are just reports. You see, they're all coming from Canada. If they were tapping into conversations of people they thought were involved, and if on the other side, a diplomat was there,
Mm-hmm. So
that
that is also a violation.
yes, that conversation becomes a violation under the Vienna Convention.
Right.
So they can no longer furnish it as proof.
Mm.
If that's the conversation, then maybe that's why they're contemplating.
Mm.
Because if there is no other,
Like it doesn't mean that I mean, that the evidence doesn't become admissible, even if they are, I mean, even if it means that Canada itself is violating the Vienna Convention. But if they're able to prove that, okay, even if we, violated the code, but there is intel, so doesn't
I
that,
suppose, Anna, it's the other way around. Canada is trying to contemplate whether they should go public with it and be in violation of the Vienna Convention.
oh,
To accept that you're in violation of the Vienna Convention is going to be huge. I
oh,
mean, is everything kosher? You'll start listening into you. You see, why is it? Why is it a violation to listen into an ambassador's conversation? It is
hmm.
not that countries don't do it; they do it all the time. Okay,
Yeah,
all these phones are tapped all the time. But
wow.
why is it a violation? It's a violation because this ambassador or this high commissioner, this envoy of a country, is sitting on foreign soil in another country and needs to speak to headquarters every now and again. And there could be
Mm.
some things that are very confidential. You might not be having great ties with a particular country, and you need strategy, and you're discussing those strategies. They don't do it over the phones because it'd be silly. I know that all countries tap, all countries listen, but however,
Yeah.
they can never be admitted, and they are
Mm.
not admissible, and they're not acceptable to. It's not acceptable to violate the Vienna Convention. So even
Mhm.
if you cannot actually go and say that's the whole thing about spy theory. The spy the stories. You can never actually go and say, I know you did it, because where's the proof? And then you'd have to
Right.
say, we were listening into you, which is an absolute violation of the code. The
Yeah.
reason why you cannot tap on into a diplomat's phone.
Mhm.
It's a no. So Canada will have to, now this is a very serious situation. So
Yeah.
Canada will have to contemplate and decide. We do not know. These are just reports. We do not know whether they exist or not.
Hmm. Okay.
Because the Indian side is very clear that they were not involved. The Indian side
Yeah.
is very clear that this is ridiculous and beyond ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is that um, there can be no violation of the Vienna Convention. And
Hmm.
they have to really decide if they have anything that they've listened to that in any way remotely suggests
Yes.
involvement. Then
Yes.
they'll have to expose themselves in.
Yeah.
Even though if it were not them tapping the envoy, but tapping the individual of interest who they were suspecting,
Uh,
he ended up calling or speaking or sharing photos or something with the envoy. Then it's a,
hmm.
so
Hmm.
so lots of reports coming in, but no
Oh, wow.
evidence furnished yet,
Hmm.
and
And that,
it's getting
yeah.
complicated.
Interesting, Geeta, that you pointed out the how India is responding to both the cases, because both are Khalistani terrorists, as India claims, and how, like you said, US has so-called apprehended and also named two officials, but on the contrary, Canada has not. They have not been able to furbish any sort of evidence. But I was still conflicted in the sense that two similar cases involving Khalistani terrorists, but two different reactions from India, because India has said that okay, we'll cooperate with the US, but I still feel that uh, not
It's the
cooperating with.
it's the
Mhm.
handling, Anna. Like I
Yeah,
said, it's the handling. Look, America has evidence.
yeah,
They
yeah.
have shared. They have not gone public with anything. They've been very, very sensitive. They're
Mm-hmm.
not standing in parliament or their house and saying that, you know, this is what India has done. They were in touch with India diplomatically through diplomatic sources, and news was coming out. A lot of it was printed, a lot of it was spoken of, but they're doing it in a very different manner than how Canada has done it. Canada has taken it to the highest level. Prime Minister Trudeau has almost made it a personal mission, which should not have been the case. It should have been a case that they've come to that has come to light. Yes, also the difference is very huge. Over here in Canada, the man was killed. In
Yeah,
US, there was a murder plot that was
lot.
busted, but a murder plot being busted with evidence of
Hmm.
payment
Hmm.
happening, whosoever, and then India ending up arresting. But also, I suppose if this was US and just flipping things around, and the
Right.
individual over here was killed and not over there, things would have been very bad with US also. But India would have handled it maybe differently than it did Canada. Our interests with Canada are not very, very high, although yes,
Mm.
there's a lot of pension fund investments that take place.
Yeah.
uh, but not as intertwined as it is today with America.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that because it doesn't mean that not cooperating with the US is resulting in a very quiet American handling of the situation, of the entire incident, because there is much greater international scrutiny even in friendly countries, right, on the activities of Indian diplomats, Indian diplomatic missions, especially the engagement with the growing diasporic communities. So, like, it's not that you are cooperating with the US, so I mean, the allegations that the US is putting, or the evidence that the US is putting, is not in public. It's there in public, and that has hampered. And let's also not forget the intel was in all likelihood provided by the US.
No, it was provided by the US initially.
Right.
That there is
Yeah.
something happening because they had started picking up the chatter on Gurpatman Singh Parpanoon even before Niger was killed. If you see the
Mm.
timeline
Mm.
of the conversations, that the charge sheet and the details that were furnished in court,
Yeah.
the conversation that CC1, the officer who has now been named as Vikas Yadav, was having with Nikhil Gupta was before Niger was killed. So the timeline is reversed. If people are thinking first Niger happened and then people are trying to kill Gurpatman Singh Pannu, that was not the case. There's a
Mm.
plan for Gurpatman Singh Pannu, and then Niger happened, and America had already picked up and sniffed, and they knew what was happening. So that's why the Canadians were informed. In fact,
Mhm.
there was a photograph that did the rounds saying that see how this Khalistan is involved with the Canadian intelligence agencies, because these guys had gone to the intelligence agency building. They were seen there in Canada.
Okay.
And later, the Sun actually said in an interview that we'd gone there because they had called us to tell us, to warn
Mm.
us that that Hardeep Singh Nijjar, to tell him that his life
Mhm.
is under threat.
Wow.
So it is not because they
Yeah.
were doing something, but does not mean Anna. We're saying all this, but does not mean that Canada does not have to do a rethink on how much space they want to give
Mhm.
extremism and secessionist ideas. Now, there is freedom of speech. Yes, you are allowed to think how you want to um, have opinion about countries, want things from a country of origin, and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. But
Yeah.
there has to be a line in terms of what they're doing, how they're impacting the other country. Is there a problem in the activities that they're carrying out? They've all become gangs, most of them. The gang wars over there are very
Yeah.
common. Um, do you, do you want a society, and because of his electoral vote bank and politics, you're seeing more of that happen in Canada. Trudeau has to think whether having, Khalistani leaders like Jagmeet in on his side is good for him, good for his country or not. And you see, all these people also, quite a few of them now are second generation or first generation Canadians, and
Mm.
yet they have this affinity to what their forefathers, went through or wanted, and they continue with that. So I really don't know whether if it is in Canada's interest
Right.
having this acrimonious relationship with India for a movement that is non-existent in India.
Exactly.
It only exists in countries
It's
like
uh,
UK, parts of US,
yeah.
Canada, thriving in
It's
Canada.
it's actually a fossilized idea. It doesn't. I mean, there's no legible threat.
And there's no resonance.
Also, Geeta, I would like to understand this from you because while I was reading, I thought that Muhammad Ali Jinnah is the founder of Pakistan. He had foreseen the country's, geostrategic importance, and he had actually said that Pakistan would always be a very geographically important country to the US, guarding against Afghanistan, where Russia had a lot of influence, right? And to China, of course, and which would want to connect to West Asia through Pakistan. And most of that did end up being true. So I'm just thinking aloud here. Do you think we are in this very unique kind of moment where India is in a similar position in terms of like leveraging its own geostrategic importance to actually divide the West, even if it's not intentional? Because we are cooperating with the US where there was a similar press conference alleging the involvement. Uh, but it's been like totally the opposite reaction. But so there, while there continues to remain strife in the India-Canada relations, the US has meanwhile already said that it is satisfied with the Indian government's response, Indian government's probe into the matter. So to me, it kind of all boils down to how much the West is willing to compromise its relationship with India. The US, and it turns out, wants to play it safe because it thinks India is the only country that can keep China in check. So do you think that because of these dynamics, Canada will kind of find it really difficult to unite the Five Eyes to pressure India here?
On the contrary, the only reason I say is that the reaction is very different. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
One, handling of the situation was very different when it comes to Canada and America. They were way more mature than Canada. The other is the situation was very different. Nobody died in America. Imagine an American citizen killed
Mm-hmm.
by a foreign agent. I don't think America would have taken that very lightly. The stakes are very high with India right now, Anna, and is the reason why America does not want to really blow this entire issue out of proportion and wants to really handle it and be done with, because there's too many important deals. They just signed a deal, a drone deal, $3.1 billion deal.
Right.
So, and it's not just that America needs India, India needs America too. So this is a relationship they don't want hampered because of one incident that did not happen.
Mm.
If the incident would have happened, maybe it would have been different. Uh, and the matter could have gotten very serious. But it happened in Canada, and that's why you're seeing the reaction. Although that also should have been handled with diplomacy and tact. That did not really happen, and that's the problem. However, when you say that, is it dividing the West? On
Right.
the contrary, when the Canadian statement came about charging the Indian envoy and a few other diplomats as persons of interest, the Five Eyes put out statements one after the other, standing by Canada. All the
Mm.
countries came out and said, well, Canada has this information. This is what they've alleged. We stand by. We really urge India to cooperate with Canada.
Mm.
So all of them have been urging cooperation rather than saying that this is a bit much. In fact, when the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, came out with their details of the investigations, the very highly opposing leader of the opposition when it comes to Trudeau, who's been questioning him on this case and saying you're wrong, you're not providing any evidence, so on and so forth against India, and something that we used a lot in our reports. After the RCMP came out with their details and said that we're charging these people, and the RCMP did it, not the PMO.
Yeah.
Charging the Indian diplomats and naming them as persons of interest. Even the opposition came out and said, well, if the RCMP is saying it, then we have to wait and see what they have to really know the extent and, express concern. So you are seeing a shift because there is investigation. They must have shared it with the Five Eyes. They know exactly what they have. Nobody's sharing the evidence over here, maybe because they've been in violation of Vienna Convention, maybe for some other reasons. And if they don't have evidence and if they're not going to furnish evidence, India does not really have to move forward.
Yeah.
So there is a stalemate.
Yeah.
India does not have to move forward unless and until you provide evidence, like America did. America provided evidence, and look, action was taken, and the man was arrested. Now is on bail, according to reports, but that really happened. So I don't know, Anna. Over here at this point in time, it does feel like this is for the long haul. This is going to take a while. It's not going to solve itself immediately, only because there are certain intricacies and details. Or maybe it will solve itself if Trudeau does not win the elections.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
Canadian
That's
election.
that's one thing that everybody is saying, that he's been voted as the worst prime minister in 55 years, and his
That is
popularity is dipping. So
that's an anti-incumbency domestic political,
yeah,
rhetoric. But
yeah. So
apart from that also, tell me, if the opposition leaders already come and said if the RCMP is saying it, then we'll also, then it's a matter of concern. The charges and RCMP's investigation is not going to go away. So is the opposition leader going to come, become prime minister, and think that he can just look the other way? You think Trudeau sitting in the opposition will allow that? You
yeah,
think the opposition parties will allow that? They'll see it become weak.
yeah,
This is not going to go away either way. It is not.
very, very important. I think for a moment, just also address, like, assuming that there is some credibility to what Canada is saying. So like you said, it's a very fossilized idea. The idea of Khalistan is not a legible threat to India right now. So there are two questions that I was thinking of. One, why is India, if it is true, why is India seeing it as such a significant threat that we are now using gangsters, for the sake of argument, I'm saying, if this is true, for using gangsters to target Sikh separatists, not in India, but in Canada? And secondly, the second question, that if this is all true, then isn't it a failure of diplomacy that if we think that, countries, of course, engage in these, intelligence of operations, and several intelligence operations fail, right? Then why not diplomatically engage and sort of, delve into like a constructive conversation with the country where all of this is happening, if it is happening, to avoid this kind of public embarrassment instead of just, washing your dirty linen in public? Because great powers don't do that. If you want to become a Vishwa Guru, if this is all true, I'm just saying that again and again. So if you want to become a Vishwa Guru and everything, so great powers will not be engaged. Even if they are engaged, there will be a different, way to handle it. But right now, if it can be true, there is a kind of reputation that India is,
But
projecting.
Anna, which great power has not
Mm.
used its spycraft to kill people on foreign soil. America has done it all the time. Israel has
The
done it.
hypocrisy. Yeah.
The
Mm.
UK, I mean Russia, when they were superpowers, and even now. Which country has not done it? You
Okay.
don't get
Mm.
caught. You
Yeah.
don't get caught with evidence. You don't get caught with your people in the mix of things. There's a way of doing things. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying it's absolutely wrong for countries to do that. But please
Mm.
don't, hold others on a higher pedestal and think, oh my God, what is India doing? They are all bad. They've all done it. They've all used spycraft. They've all killed people on foreign soil. And
Yeah.
this is not me saying, oh my God, I know it. I'm just saying according to reports. Let's just put it like that, and that. But
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Uh, Even now, who has a higher moral ground to say that, well, how dare you do this? I mean, of course, how dare you do this? You're not supposed to get caught.
Mm.
It's just really shoddy. It's just a really shoddy, piece of work if you're getting caught. Not
Yeah.
just you are getting caught. Your officers in your embassy are getting caught. That's really shoddy.
Mm.
That's really shoddy. And again, let us put a rider here that no matter what the evidence is, India said they don't get involved in this. And so it could just be a rogue officer doing his own thing. Whatever it is just an embarrassment when it comes to the American case. And it's just a real uh, matter of concern and has become a real niggling issue when it comes to Canada.
Yeah.
You have stakes, you have students there, the policies are changing, even for work permits. You are
Mm-hmm.
going to see a lot of trouble, and the students feeling betrayed are protesting over there, will be returning. So you'll see a lot of problems between India and Canada in the
This is not
coming.
going to be the Maldives. I mean, go the Maldives way, right? And then after boycott Maldives, I just,
It's a it's a different player altogether. In the Maldives, it's
yeah.
China. Whether if they're
Mm.
pro-China or pro-India, they're dependent on one or the
Right.
other. And look, despite being pro-China, they knew they needed India. Motsu came here. He got the line of credit.
Exactly.
He got all the works. And India is allowing
Mm-hmm.
that because Maldives geostrategically is very important for us. And we want to have
Right.
friendly neighbors. So we've been decent
Right.
about it. But like putting out posters and thinking they're being very smart about it with, bullet ridden face of our diplomat, and then at the bottom with in very fine line, very sorry, fine print, in very fine print,
Yeah.
they write, oh, with ballots, not bullets, or some such, just to get away from the law. But you know what that picture
Mm-hmm.
depicts. Are they,
Exactly.
who are they fooling? You can't say, oh, but in
Mm.
our, no, be smart about it. They
Mm.
carry weapons. They are involved in illegal activities. Be smart about it. Then how you want to tackle these elements? They're having a
Right.
huge immigration problem. Many of these guys only are part of that illegal immigration route. Cut all the nonsense out.
That's true.
This
Mm.
cannot be a vote bank. This should not be a
Yeah.
vote bank.
Yeah. Very important. Yes, I think. Well, just lastly, as we conclude, Geeta, I think let's also address one peculiar thing that I would just wanted to ask you about this curious case about Vikas Yadav. Like what I have read is that he was first, like, I mean, that is being claimed that he was employed by the Cabinet Secretariat, which houses the RAW, India's Foreign Intelligence Service. And India has said that, it was investigating the allegations and said that Yadav was no longer a government employee without saying whether he had been an intelligence officer. So we're not clear on that. But secondly, he was I mean, last year, he was arrested by the Delhi police, December last year, for allegedly kidnapping a businessman living in Rohini, Delhi, and demanding money in the name of Lawrence Bishnoi. Uh, and then he was also granted bail, but this interim bail order that was given, it referred to Yadav as an ex-government employee having clean antecedents. And if the reporters have gone and spoken to the family also, his family, and they have said that they have no information about him working for the spy agency. And for them, he's still working for the CRPF, and he was some deputy commandant, sorry, and was trained as a paratrooper. So how murky can it get? Like, and Lawrence Bishnoi of all sudden, like in some unrelated case.
I've been asked Lawrence Bishnoi question even by the Pakistanis when I was there, and I was like, I have
Hmm.
no idea. I have no idea how a man sitting in prison is carrying out operations. So there's a
The
joke, there's a
yeah,
meme that's doing rounds that Lawrence Bishnoi is sitting in prison
yeah,
and is getting people killed across the world and
yeah.
has a network of 7,000 operatives or whatever, and doing all this from prison. And here my boss wants me to come to office to join a virtual call. so, so there
That
are
is
all these
so,
Lawrence Bishnoi jokes that are
yeah.
so funny. And
Genuinely.
by joking about it, it's really not funny that
Yeah.
from Baba Siddiqui to uh, the
Threats to
Khalistan
Salman Khan, then
to
yeah,
Khalistan,
to Khalistan.
he's
It's
he,
like how can he is there since 2015 and there's an international racket. In some unrelated case, his name is popping up. And I'm like, wow, this is so fascinating. So yeah. Um, well, I think we'll put an end to our conversation on that note, Geeta. I think it was great speaking to you. I think this topic needs a lot of spotlight because, there's uh, um, a lot of narratives actually. It's more like rhetorics that, okay, now India needs to, teach Canada a lesson. The US needs to be dealt in a certain way. Canada needs to be dealt in a certain way. And India hasn't done it. All these dirty linens being washed in public. There's a lot of actually the Khalistan being such a fossilized idea, not a legible threat, but still out there, provoking and irritating India for a lot many reasons. I think there's a lot that we need to understand, and I think time will tell. Um, Also, I think in the fact that Justin Trudeau has gone a notch further, where he is saying that the Modi government is targeting Canadians who are anti-Modi. So that is another facet. Like, how can you? I mean, don't you think that is a stretch? That how can you
they are
have that intel on that?
anti-Modi.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and again, it's silly because he's stretching it. He has made it a personal mission. He should stop, look back, and look at how diplomacy is conducted. It certainly is not conducted in the manner in which Trudeau is conducting it.
Right. Yes. So let's see. Next year, Canada is due for its elections, so we'll actually have like a better understanding as to how Canada is going to look at this issue and going to navigate this. So thank you so much, Geeta, and I look forward to having you another next week in the studio and discussing on something equally important as this topic was. So thank you so much, and to all the listeners and viewers, if you stayed till the end, if you gained a lot from this conversation like I did, please message us on 8588966996, or you could also email us on pods@indiatoday.com.